just replacing it with the ergonomics?
No.
Okay. Okay, you on that side? Yeah. Oh wait, isn't there that time-lapse episode we were going to do? But like we ended up switching places accident. Remakes that were good remakes. We still need to reshoot that. At some point, we don't have to do it now. I just remembered because we were switching places, and that was the problem with that episode.
I'm completely lost on honestly.
Okay, so we had the joke episode, where we were going to be
right.
But the problem was we ended up switching places accidentally during one of the time lapses.
No, the problem, well, maybe that didn't happen, but the problem was 2 of 3 shots were recorded the wrong way, so it was just black screen on the camera.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I meant by switched. I put the camera in the wrong way.
Oh.
Yeah, no. If it was just us switching, I would have just like reversed the frame and saw if anybody noticed. But no, we can actually do a pretty good version of it here because those glass, well, all windows are essentially glass, but those windows over there can accurately cover the passage of time. But we'll have to do that for a different day. Well, we are here at Hunter Lucas.
This thing beeped accidentally, so.
Matt, do you like to laugh?
Absolutely.
Great. Well, I have some good news for you.
Ooh.
Games can be funny.
Yes, they can.
Not all games are funny, although most games will make you laugh at least once or twice for one reason or another. In fact, yeah, actually, at first I said that, I'm not really sure how true that is, but humor is so pervasive in life that most games are going to be funny in one way or the other.
I found myself laughing many times when playing Dark Souls 2 because it was the only way to keep from crying.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You can replace all your crying with laughter. Give it a shot. No, don't do that. You need to feel your proper emotions.
Yeah.
So
let's not go all old boy on everyone.
Yeah. Humor is something that's very close to me. That I guess I hate to say it, but I'm worried about the state of humor in terms of how generations seem to treat humor.
It's really easy to make a movie or game filled with pop culture references that'll make today's audience laugh, but that game or movie now has a very limited shelf life in terms of humor.
Yeah, and I'm also concerned about the quality of the humor itself, and that, like you said, with pop culture references, it's dated humor. Even if it is well-timed and well-scripted and well-delivered, it's humor that doesn't really, like you said, hold together. But there's also stuff like memes and just people saying phrases like "we tech those" or just something that is so easy to throw out. It takes no anticipation, no build up. You throw it out, and someone probably laughs at it because they're ingrained in that. Now, I have done that in my generation too. Only for us, it was stuff like quoting The Simpsons. And
who at least these days were quoting somebody else in turn. So you have quite the humorception going on there.
Yeah, as far as I knew, I was just quoting Simpsons. I didn't know what The Simpsons was basing itself off of. But nonetheless, the humor in The Simpsons was so strong that it managed to survive whether or not you knew anything else that was going on in it. But that's okay. So, how does humor work in games? Well, the thing that I've worked out is that you see humor take on different forms, obviously depending on the game, and also depending on the interactivity on the player's end. The first and most obvious kind of humor is, well, it's cutscenes. It's narrative humor. It's stuff that's deliberately written by a writer who is expecting you to laugh at this.
Who may or may not have a humor consultant.
Who may or may
Which
not.
Which is actually something that some games are credited as having, a humor consultant.
I think you were thinking of Sunset Overdrive. Because I was thinking of Sunset Overdrive too.
Yep.
Now there's an example of a game that went for the corporate understanding of humor. Well, it's loud. We use the word awesome with sunglasses and grind rails and cool things and zombies and blowing up heads.
Deal with it.
Yeah, it's all those things that you expect a focus group to tell you is funny, even if it's just trying to pander to the audience more than anything else.
Why do I have a teddy bear strapped to my grenades?
Because awesome. Because reasons.
Reasons is not a reason.
No, it's not. You need to actually specify your reasons. Yeah, and it's like, I wonder. I mean, does the humor consultant understand humor? Is comedy even actually subjective? There's so many angles to this. But for narrative humor, the game that like sticks out in my mind the most was the N64 and Xbox game Conqueror's Bad Fur Day. Now there was a romp. Now I think if I were to like play it now and never having touched it before, I'd probably find a lot of the humor crass, but a lot of it was also clever. There was some referential humor, but there was also some dirty humor, some naughty humor, some smart ass humor. It was different kinds of comedy throughout. So it was trying to gross you out in many situations.
I'm a giant piece of poo,
Yeah,
and I'm going to throw my shit at you.
You were serenaded by a gigantic monstrous poo. And that's South Park level of just going that extra crazy step, and I appreciate it for that.
I think part of what made Conker's Bad Fur Day hilarious was just the fact that it existed.
Yeah.
I mean, when you looked at what Conker did before, what Conker's done after, like guest starring in Diddy Kong, his original game, like when it was originally pitched something for the N64, the big complaint was, oh, it's another boring kids game. At which point the creator just said, okay, now I give you Conker's Bad Fur Day. Up yours, trolls.
Yeah.
And it just, no one saw it coming. I don't think anyone's really attempted anything like that since. I don't think you could attempt something like that since. You would need a mascot to start off in a kid's game, to guest star in another kid's game, and then all of a sudden turn around and do that. And nobody would let you do that anymore.
Yeah. It makes you question, like, is this what happens to game characters after they're done their game? Like, does Conker put on his happy face when he's showing up for the next Diddy Kong race? But as soon as he's just like another slob, just like everybody else who just goes to the bar and drinks with his friends. The game had a little bit of extra depth to it in that it was spun as Conker knew that this was a game going on. Mm. He would say that like he gets to this thing and it's destroyed. And he's like, it's destroyed. I thought for sure this was going to be the last level. So it was it was interesting how like what exactly do these people think is going on in Conker's world, and is this Conker also the exact same character that shows up and is really bright and fine at a kid's party? It's interesting because you're not going to really get a character to do that anymore. Basically, if your character is going to be that slob, going to be that asshole that Conker is, then he's probably going to be established as that. He's not going to have time to be one thing and then pull the rug out and then show you what else he is. Which is fine. I mean, I can't think of any other game that was funny in the way that Conker's Bad Fur Day was.
Well, I think humor in video games is something that, like many aspects of video games, because let's face it, is kind of the newest media we're dealing with, hasn't really been fully explored, because it's very much an interactive thing. Like, video games are an interactive narrative. If you have a cutscene, that's really easy to put a joke in there, because that's essentially a movie, and we've been writing comedy for movies for quite some time now.
Yeah.
Comedy for movies is basically a more visual version of comedy for books, which we've been writing for quite some time now. But comedy in video games where the character is controlled, can move around, can do different things, or maybe even get to things at its own pace, is a lot stranger and a lot weird. Like, one of the big things I think of in comedy in games, and maybe this is very dark comedy, would be the Stanley Parable.
Okay.
The game does a decent amount of jobs of laughing at you, and sometimes laughing with you. And there's, of course, the break room, which we can spoil this game at this point, right?
I don't think it's too bad of a spoiler.
Yeah, okay, so there's a break room you can go to, And when you go there, it basically you're taking a path, you diverge from the path. It's like, well, I'm going to take a look at it is called a break room, right?
I think it's, yeah.
Break room, lunchroom, whatever. You go in there and you basically stand there, and the narrator goes, "Ah, yes, this room. This is an amazing room. I can see why Stanley went here."
Can a man ever truly love a room?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you just stand there, and it's like, at this point, Stanley's obsession with this room was borderline creepy. And you just keep standing there. Stanley's an antisocial person who has no friends, coworkers hate him. That's probably why they all left him, because he's stuck in this dust-stunning room. Stanley continued to stand here, waiting for more dialogue, but was soon disappointed. Like, the game is acknowledging that you are doing nothing and using it as part of the story, and actually mocking you for it. And then, of course, there's the broom closet ending, which those are examples of inaction affecting the story, which is something I don't think a lot of games want to do, because inaction is the opposite of action. It's a video game, but you want to be doing something. And that is also really just a great example of writing in video games, because it's acknowledging that maybe you're not doing this, or maybe you're doing something else. There's plenty of times in Stanley Parable where you can just go off and do something else while the narrator is talking, and the narrator's like, "Hey, what are you doing? Get back on the path, would you?" And it's acknowledging the fact that you are an independent entity capable of making thoughts. And it will turn around and attack you as Stanley. It will attack the actions Stanley's performed, therefore attacking you. It does it in this weird way. Again, it's very dark humor, but it's very well written for an interactive story, because it goes off everything you do, and will even go off things you don't do, and will even eventually say, "You know what, I'm not talking anymore to do something. Seriously. Yeah? This is the silent treatment." And a lot of games struggle with that, I think, because
the Stanley Parable is something that I don't think really could have been pulled off earlier on, because gaming was still being developed, and people are still understanding what it was that they can even do with games. So the Stanley Parable is a little retrospective in that it's talking about the nature of interacting with an environment and wanting to feel like you have some agency in what goes on. And the game is like, no, we know better than you. Please stop trying to make choices for yourself. Allow us to do it for you. And that's why, like, the original ending, the Stanley Parable ending, is the one where you do not deviate from the path at all. You do exactly what the game tells you. The game gives you a satisfying ending. It wraps up very nicely, nice and neat. You don't have to worry about anything afterwards. And the moment that you don't do that, that's when the Stanley Parable kicks off, and it goes after you in, like you said, in many different psychological ways.
Like, the game doesn't really acknowledge you as a person until you insist on knocking on door 105 5 times.
Yeah. There's humor that I've found in a couple of games where it's happening while you're playing, and it's not just waiting for it to be that next cutscene. One of a small example I can give you is in Beyond Good and Evil. One part, you're on a rescue mission to retrieve a secret agent who's been kidnapped, and you break him out, but the two of you split up because he's trying to get out his own path, and you get to this little crevice or whatever you want to call it, where you have to sidle along the wall. Like, you're deliberately moving very slowly, but it was smartly done because it's something that you've done a few times, so it feels like a natural part of the gameplay. And while you're doing that, you basically have no choice but to move through this for at least 10 seconds, and that's when you hear your aging friend in the background go. He's holding on for dear life on some pipe. He's like, "Everything is just fine. I'll find my way out." And you're just like, and you get to the end, and that to me was, I think, one of the like a perfectly executed joke, because that is specific to gaming. Because you are interacting with it, because you are playing the character, because you are moving the story along, even in a very small way, it knows that you are probably going to, get to the other
doing
side.
Nothing for 10 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. And it takes this opportunity to do something funny for you and to let you get to know the character a little bit better. And it's very smart. It's a very, very smart way to just get a laugh in there. And I feel like if they had done it as a cutscene, the humor would have been lost. It's funnier that this is something that is happening while you are physically playing the game.
And I presume that particular section you were taking that ledge not as a stealth segment or anything. It's just you have to get from A to B.
It actually was. There were actually just quite it was mostly stealth. You had to sneak past a lot of different guards. I mean, it wasn't all stealth. There's action.
I'm referring to just a specific ledge.
Yeah,
that ledge was just an A to B traversal.
Yeah, basically.
Might as well put something there.
Yeah,
an example, not necessarily of humor, but of putting something in the A to B. The Witcher 3. You're doing a quest with another person, and that other person and you just start going to a conversation as to whether or not the Lord of the Land had a name for his stillborn child. It was just this really weird, sort of offbeat conversation which helped fill out the lore of the world. You're going somewhere. You're stuck at a fixed pace because you're going along with somebody else. You may as well put something there.
Yeah. Those will always be the best opportunities. Is to find a way to make the player laugh while they're engaged in the gameplay, because it helps the player focus more on the game itself and not wander onto other things like something else that might make them laugh. Another great example is this was in the original Splinter Cell. You have a comm device, so you're always in contact with your superiors, and it's not like in, say, Metal Gear where you have to pause, listen to the codec conversation, and then go back into it. Those examples of humor are definitely more in the first kind, where it's specifically written humor. In this example, you're in a gunfight, and your superior says he's going to tell you to kill the head mercenary. He says, "Sam, kill Grinko," and Sam just says, "Okay." And usually Sam has a lot more to say on a subject, so the fact that he just says, "Yeah, okay, I'll kill him." It's funny because this is happening while Sam is in a gunfight, and while he's fighting for his life. So it's also funny to imagine that Sam probably didn't spend very much time giving this thought because he's dealing with more pressing matters. So that is another great example, and it's also something that is unexpected because it's not like the comm device only showed up at that point just for the laugh. It's funny because the comm device is something that you've come to expect by this point in the game. It's something that you're constantly being harassed over. It's how you find out you lost the mission. It's like, God damn it, Sam, you weren't supposed to knock over that plat. Mission's over.
Sam!
Yeah. That is what you just did was referencing Metal Gear. Now that kind of thing is unintentional. Well, it's not. The unintentional humor is in two groups. There's unintentional humor where it wasn't meant to be funny; it was meant to be dramatic.
It was totally meant to be funny.
I don't know. I feel like
dramatically funny. Okay, now we're getting into subgenres.
I think if somebody thinks you're dead and they're like that concerned, I don't know. I was like. But it became funny, and I think they played into that more than anything else.
Well, Hideo Kojima, and more specifically the Metal Gear Solid series, is something that takes itself pretty seriously, but then will just out of nowhere, throw some sort of joke at you, and I think that's always made the joke better because it was so unexpected. Like, Raiden, you're being tortured, and you notice that, okay, I have to get out. It's like, oh god, I'm naked. So now you're running around as Raiden with your hand over your crotch, and you could do cartwheels to basically reveal he's got nothing under there. But it becomes just part of the whole, like, this, again, very silly. And even looking at the prequel Metal Gear Solid 3, if you died and you just let the game over screen continue for long enough, it says time paradox. Why? Because you're playing a prequel. So if you die in the prequel, it is a time paradox. And that is sort of the greatest, I think, violation of the fourth wall ever. You died in the prequel. Time paradox. Also, you killed Ocelot, who's been around for the game. Time paradox. Acknowledging sort of the fluidity of video game narrative in the form of, well, we can make a game at any point in this person's life. And I guess it always has the whole humor of, why exactly in Batman Origins do I have all these gadgets, but then I went to Arkham Asylum and I lost all of them? There's always silly points you can point out there. So to actually acknowledge it was funny. And, of course, there's moments, like if before you start the game, you say you like Metal Gear Solid 3, he pulls off the mask and, oh, here's a Raiden face. and the Raiden face just sits in your inventory for no apparent reason. And then, oh, you need to sneak into this building, pretend to be this other person. What does he look like? He looks like Raiden. Do you have a mask that makes you look like Raiden? Why the fuck do I have this? Yes, I do. For some reason, I don't know.
God, okay, this is you just reminded me. I mean, I'm sorry that this isn't a game example, but the Ocean's movies, Ocean's 11, 12, 13.
I've only seen 11 and 12.
Well, there is Julia Roberts is a character in it, and in the third movie, they need to use her to get into I think it was a party, and they said, "Look, just pretend you're Julia Roberts, okay?" She's like, "I'm not Julia Roberts. No. I don't even look like her. You'll pass." And Bruce Willis, playing himself, is like, "Julia, it's Bruce. How you been?" And
I remember that. So that was 13?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, because I've only seen the first one and whichever one you just described.
Okay. Well, if not, it was still a clever take on the fact that actresses and actors are portraying characters. So I thought it was funny. He also reminded me of Prince of Persia when he would die. The prince says, "No, that's not how it happened. Let's go back."
Yes.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that will probably get annoying after a while, but first time that happens, that's pretty funny.
Yeah,
because the prince is like, "I'm trying to tell you a story here. Can you not be such a fucking failure, please?"
I remember in the second one he didn't really do that.
Because he was much. He was gritty.
Yeah, I did actually like the second one. I understand people's criticisms with it. I still thought it was a very enjoyable experience. The third one, it just got really fucking full of itself. But there was a point at the very beginning which was hilarious because he's walking through and there's a knife on the table. It's like, why is it every time disaster happens, I find myself without a proper blade? It's like, oh yeah, that actually has been happening a lot. It just sort of, again, acknowledging the whole I've lost all my powers and my swords and my whatever thing because we happen to have Deus Ex Shipwreck at the beginning of this. Wait a second, did we have Deus Ex Shipwreck at the beginning of the last game too?
No.
Oh my god, I really should stay off ships.
So the last form of humor that I found in games is, I think, the best one out of all of them because it's the most personal. It's things that are funny because it was the player's fault that something funny happened. It's the games that allow for humor for laughter to generate. It's something like you're playing Battlefield and you have a bunch of people together and you all get into like a tank or something and you drive into and just start running people over, or you drive off the stage, or things get blown up. I remember, say, in Guild Wars 2, a lot of the major websites formed like gigantic guilds, and I think in one group, I think it was the something awful goons. They got enough of those giant mech suits to physically block like an entire section and prevent anybody else from getting into it.
Like, this would be world versus world, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in the world versus world section. There's instances in Minecraft where everything's going fine, and then a creeper comes after you, and you just narrely avoid it, and you're laughing because you're relieved that you're okay. Or you fall into a ditch, and your friends are laughing at you. There are other games where unintentional things can be laughed off, but I would rather they didn't. If I take Skyrim as an example, what's funny to me is trying to maintain in my character's head a dragon swoops in and is ready to fight, and I look to the left and I see a Nirnroot just pulsing a little bit of light, and I twitched in real life because I knew I wanted to get the root first before I went after the dragon, and that to me is funny because I'm picturing my character do that, and that like watching, if I were to watch that, I would laugh my head off. But what was something that I think somebody else would have found funny was like a glitch where I killed the dragon and it turned to bone, and then it just started like freaking out, flipping, just like moving all around.
Well,
and I was just like, I don't want this to happen in my games because I want to laugh based on things that make sense and are part of the context. I don't want to laugh at the game. I want to laugh with.
Well, if you know the game Goat Simulator, this specifically says we fixed all the game crashing bugs, but we left the rest of them in there. And the whole game is basically designed on how much can you screw everything over, how broken is the physics engine, all that stuff, which a lot of people pointed out, it's not funny anymore when this is basically the kind of humor being slapped in the face with constantly. Like, it's funny when it's rare and unexpected and interesting. And actually, one of the things I found a little funny, it took me a while to find this funny, because initially I was kind of in the moment, as like looking back. Deus Ex Human Revolution gave you a lot of freedom. And one particular moment, I had to deal with two guards, and they were sort of on the ground floor in the alleyway. And I had a weird idea, and I just went to a vending machine, I picked up the vending machine. I went all the way upstairs to the vending machine, I looked over, okay, angle this correctly, and troop! And sure enough, yeah, I killed them both. Okay then. Like, I wanted to try it. I just wanted to see if I could do it. And afterwards, I just thought it was really funny. So wait a sec, I just used augmented arm strength to pick up a vending machine and then drop it on a pair of goons so I didn't have to use any bullets or energy to get past them. Okay. But, like, I was actually just... The fact that you can do that in that game, I think, just speaks volumes as to how great the game is. But that was just afterwards just, again, really funny. It's like, wow, can't believe I did that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that reminds me of, like, in the original Crisis, I had to storm this house where a bunch of enemy soldiers are holed up. Now, rather than go in one at a time and pick them off, Predator style, I got into a car, I drove the car into the house, jumped out of the car just before it hits the house, shoot the gas tank on the back, the whole house blows up, everybody blows up on the inside, and... I mean, that's certainly evoking laughter. I don't know if I would say that's humor or comedy, but it's exaggerated, and certainly I knew that on some level this was being done to comedic effect. But it also was just awesome and fun to do.
Well, I mean, in Crisis 1, there's one of the places I went to had an outhouse, and somebody was in it, and somebody else was waiting in line. So I used maximum strength, grabbed the guy outside, threw him into the outhouse. It caused the whole outhouse to break. It's like, oh, I just ragdolled two people.
Yeah.
He was just going to the bathroom. I'm a monster.
Oh, man. You just reminded me of the Just Cause series. I mean, there's an example of a game series that wants you to laugh as much as possible and has rigged the physics so that you connect a person with a cable and then connect that to the car and then fire the car with a rocket launcher and see both the car and the person go flying.
Never try that in real life.
They're like a Just Cause. I think the third one is out now.
Yeah.
And people are saying that, like, this is like one of the funniest things I've ever played.
Well, grappling things to things, I believe, was originally a mod in the second game, so it's only in the third game that's become an official feature.
Okay. I seem to remember doing something similar to that, so maybe my example is a bit off, but...
Well, maybe your example could be a mod.
Yeah.
I don't specifically remember. I just remember that they mentioned as a new feature, like they had a statue of the dictator. You can grapple his hand and grapple his head, and then the tension will call to his head and slap his own head off.
Yeah.
Of the statue. And yeah, that is definitely funny, and I just remember them saying as a new feature. I feel like that was a mod. I know there was a hell of a lot of mods for Just Cause 2 for letting the grapple hook do things it just should not be able to.
Yeah, but the point being is that you can do crazy things in the game, and the game was like, yeah, this is the idea here. This is the point. Another example of a game that seems to have every form of humor down is Saints Row. I know I'm focusing on the third one. I haven't touched the fourth one or the others before that, but the Saints Row series is...
Sorry, just before you do that, I want to mention one of the commercials for Saints Row 3, which I thought just perfectly embodied the game and embodies the concept of humor. Things you can do in Saints Row 3, fun with explosive shots. So there's a soft drink guy there, and you just go up to him, take out the shotgun, you start shooting him with explosive shots. But then he starts going into the air, and then you just keep shooting him and shooting him and shooting him. He goes up in the air, then you turn around, face camera, put away the gun, and as he falls to the ground, you just do the hip thrust. And then it just has Saints Row 3 as this huge explosion. It's like, yeah, that's the game in a nutshell.
Yeah. Well, that game... hit every kind of humor that I can think of. It gave you experimental humor. You can grab some crazy weaponry and go do crazy things. It got crazier in Saints Row 4. One of the stories was two separate groups of developers within the studio both came to the idea of a dubstep gun independently of each other. And so when one group found out that the other group wanted a dubstep gun, they're like, okay, now we're definitely putting a dubstep gun in the game. But yeah, you can do silly, stupid things in Saints Row all the time. In that you can call in friends who are hulking brutes and just have them go to town on something. But there's also narrative humor. I mean, there's cutscenes. There's an actual story to all of this, and it's not just crass. There's some satire in there as well. It's also commenting on on itself. It's a self-referential game. It's pointing out the fact that now that this is Saints Row the Third Street Saints, the gang that you are in control of, are celebrity status now. So they're a bigger deal, which is of course funny because the fact that this is the third game, they are more well known. It's like the game is like on the same level as its own presence in gaming culture.
It's kind of like when Katamari did its sequel. We love Katamari, the plot of which being so many people loved the first game that they made a sequel. And all the quests are given to you by fans. And it's weird because I think humor also can be less in your face, because at the core of humor is just levity, of just, cracking a smile, of just, you don't necessarily have to be on the floor laughing to succeed at humor. You just need to be, cheered up a little bit. And for the first time in the history of the show, I'm going to quote you on BioShock Infinite.
Okay.
There was a point in BioShock Infinite where you're going to a store just to raid supplies with Elizabeth, and you're getting, here's some tonics, here's some whatever, and she finds a stovetop hat, or whatever it is. It's like, hey,
yeah, spoiler, that scene isn't actually in the game.
That was just in the preview material?
Yeah, that's one of my major disappointments with Infinite, is that the way you saw the game in that trailer, not really how the game actually
But that
played.
was an awesome trailer.
I know.
It's like, she put on the hat and like, 4 squad, somebody. You're like, she's doing this really stupid thing. It made me smile. And they didn't put that in?
No.
Why the hell would they put that in a trailer and not put it in the game? I would have no problem walking around the store, forced into slow walk, grabbing materials, and just having Elizabeth just do this intentionally corny impression.
Yeah. Sorry to disappoint you.
It was cute.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I still think we should bring up the topic of, again, just light levity. You don't need to succeed in humor by making someone laugh so hard they've dropped the controller and rolled to the ground. You can take a dark situation and just add a joke and just add something interesting. Just have a little fun with it. And I think that's a lot more difficult to do, because some people will notice the joke, some people won't. I guess another example, in Resident Evil 4, if you get knocked down near Ashley, she'll actually put her hands on her skirt and call you a pervert. Not the time, Ashley! I mean, usually if that's happening, you're stressed out, so it's not really funny. But I can imagine that definitely on a certain level, just being you get knocked over. It's like, eek, pervert! I wasn't looking for the okay. Serious mode. Zoom back to serious mode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's an example of something that they meant to make funny when you're looking up a ladder and you can see it down her skirt. But it didn't stop when you're in a fight. Obviously, Ashley would know better than to call you that while you're gunning down trying to save her life and everything.
Yeah, it was sort of back and forth. I mean, I have to say, if you are going to absolutely tell me I need to travel with a companion, at least Ashley seemed to have some character to her. She wasn't just, hey, listen.
I don't know why you're getting more mad at it than I am.
Oh, sorry, post-traumatic stress.
Which I don't understand why it's getting you more than it gets me.
I have played Zelda games. I would like to point that out.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, one thing, just a quick thing, man. I really hate it when they keep trying to push the nostalgia button on me. Like in Hyrule Warriors, you get a little fairy, and she does the, hey, this song! I'm like, oh yeah, that thing that Navi said in Ocarina of Time. Yeah, I remember.
That we all complained about.
I remember her saying that. I don't know why, there's other things you can say, I have something important to tell you, just anything, but okay.
Oh, actually, in
nostalgia button, push.
Yeah, in Majora's Mask, a little bit of humor when you can consult whatever, what was the name of the fairy in Majora's Mask? Tattle. You could actually ask Tattle about various creatures in the world, and one of them is, you're underwater, you ask about the bonefish, whatever, it's a skull. Look, I don't know everything, alright? Just kill it.
There is Fee in Skyward Sword, your companion there, most people weren't happy with her integration because she explains everything to you. I kind of found that humorous, in that she's so intrinsically programmed to help you that she is not helping you, or she is being redundant, or she is just wasting your time.
Master, you seem to be attempting to solve a puzzle. I have calculated the rest of the pieces that'll show an image of a bird in flight. I have marked where all the pieces should be going on your map. Master, I've detected only a 3% chance that your actions will result in the solving of the puzzle.
Master, I shall wait here until you're ready to resume the puzzle. The first thing that happens when you meet her is that she's trying to talk you into picking up the sword and going to rescue Zelda. She calculates like your emotional response to it. I seem to pick up apprehension at this, so allow me to provide information that will improve your emotional state. It's my understanding that I have the whereabouts of Zelda. I see that I have raised your blood pressure and increased your motivation. You are now sufficiently motivated to pick up the sword. I was like cracking up, not just because I thought that was funny, but because I remembered like all the other companions that you've had so far, and they're all interesting in different ways. But you never had one that was so on point that she basically broke down what human interaction is, which is assessing your chemical balance and making a statement that adjusts it to a preferable level.
Yes. Zelda, when I think where I just think, hell yeah. I don't remember the rest of that line.
Thank you.
Zelda the musical. Look it up. It's easy to cite games that are made for humor, but honestly speaking, so many of them just kind of fall flat or don't really fall in the right kind.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for games to ever match the level of humor that you can achieve in, say, television and film and the other mediums because it's an interactive medium. One of the things about comedy is that you can layer your comedy so that it can evoke a stronger laugh if there's more elements that coalesce at that punchline. I'll try to. This isn't going to be funny, but I'll try to explain an example. Arrested Development was a show that essentially had 12 to 26 different strings of jokes, ongoing either on an episode-to-episode basis, season to season, or even show to show. One of them was one of their competitions as a show was the OC, the Orange County. I think it was like a hospital show. And whenever somebody said like obsessive compulsive disorder or the OC disorder, and somebody else would always say, "Don't call it that," because they were commenting on the fact that they don't want to mention their competition. And this persisted throughout the entire show. You would forget that this was a joke until somebody manages to bring it up in context, and somebody else would still say, "Don't call it that." And it's a very, very simple example, but because it's an established joke, anytime that they can work it in, they can bring it up, they've met their joke quota. I think one thing that people don't realize about jokes is that jokes aren't always like not knowing the punchline. Oftentimes, a joke works incredibly well because you know it, and you're just sitting there anticipating for the payoff, waiting for it to happen. It's like a horror scene where you know this person's going to get killed, and you're pretty sure you know how based off what weapon the murderer has been using so far. You just don't know exactly when. You don't know the timing. You don't know the delivery. So you're sitting there, you're anticipating it, and maybe it'll misdirect you. Maybe they'll just trip and fall down the stairs and die on their own. Maybe you will get blue-balled, and you won't get the kill that you thought you were going to get. And that can happen in humor too, but I'm very fascinated by humor or by jokes that are completely open about being jokes and just let you in on it as soon as possible so that you can enjoy the process of it.
I guess another example I could try to bring up of this whole thing is Borderlands,
Okay.
which most of its jokes seem to rely on the fact that everyone's an idiot. except the main characters. Except then they start making the main characters some idiots later on. And I'm remembering, I think it was the Big Hunt DLC in Borderlands 2. The villain in it kind of didn't want to be the villain. It's like, aha, I'm showing up and I'm doing these evil things, and I guess that makes me a villain, doesn't it? And you're a bunch of vault hunters, so I guess you're going to try to stop me. And it just starts this weird conversation between Hammerlock, the guy who's helping you out, and the villain, and include things like the villain just being, kind of lacking, am I sure I'm supposed to be doing this? Like, stuck up man, like, actually stand up for your ideals. You know what? You're right. I am going to stand up for my ideals. I am the bad guy. I am trying to bring back Handsome Jack. Let's do this. And it was weird. It was this funny kind of, again, motivational back and forth of, he is the villain, but he's not quite sure what he's doing. But, I have an end goal, but I'm not quite sure what happens after that end goal. It's like, he's kind of getting almost existential. And at the very end, after you beat his attempt to resurrect Handsome Jack, which is just this huge creature, which looks nothing like him, he actually comes in, it's like, well, I guess it's me. I mean, you beat that creature, so I guess it's time for a fight. I don't know if I'm ready for this. I don't know. You know what? I can do this. I did this. I crashed this ship. I have this. I can do this. Whoa! And he falls down the stairs. Every time he hits the stair, like, loses life, and by the time he hits the ground, he's dead. Well, then. And it's definitely funny the first time, but I found playing it through again on the harder difficulties. It's you kind of know it's coming. It's not quite as funny the second time. In fact, I think most of the humor in Borderlands, it just really felt dry the second time around. Like Handsome Jack was this ongoing joke, and this asshole just kept bothering you. And at the very end, it felt so satisfying. Just put a fucking round through his head. But then you go into hard mode, it's like, he's technically back again. I actually feel very unmotivated to go forward. And a lot of the humor was based on being psychotic people. And a lot of the humor, depending on the joke, can get bad. I think, it's a bit of an off example. I saw the Simpsons movie, and I saw one half of it because it was in the student lounge, and I actually thought, I was laughing my ass off a lot of it. But then we had to go to class, and I went back, and we all were watching it again. And when we went through the first half of it, I was completely stone-faced. Like, holy shit! Like, all those jokes in it had one go, and then the moment I was watching it a second time, I was like, I'm seriously not feeling motivated to laugh here. Then we got to the new stuff again, and I thought it was funny again, and I started laughing. But that movie.
Do you think you're being fair to it if the exact same thing can't make you laugh on the second go?
Well, it means it has no rewatching value. But I'm just trying to show that as an example of humor. Like, something can make you laugh once, but then if you see it again and again, the repetition kind of wears it down really quickly. Like Borderlands, like the Simpsons movie, like many other games I'm sure out there aspire to create some kind of joke or some kind of interesting thing. I don't understand why more companies don't jump on New Game Plus or Hard Mode as a chance to switch things up for hilarity's sake. I think the best example is Arkham Knight, where when you did New Game Plus, there's a cremation scene for Joker, and then when you do New Game Plus, during the cremation scene, you just, that was more of a jump scare than anything, but it at least created something. It was different. I think that's something games should jump on. This is hard mode now. We're going to change a few things around in the cutscenes and item descriptions and that kind of stuff.
In Super Mario Galaxy, when you play the game again as Luigi, nothing else in the game has changed. So Toad will show up every now and then with letters from Peach. He's like, "Dear Mario, everything's okay. Here's some extra lives."
That's just depressing.
Yeah. Toad is like, "Oh, sorry, Luigi. You don't really have any way of telling Peach that it's you and not him. Oh, this is awkward."
Yeah, can they just make him and Daisy canon already?
I can't speak to that, but if I ever get to take over Nintendo, I got you back. Oh man, we were talking about gaming and humor and all that. We didn't even mention Portal yet.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's an example of a character whose humor is based again off the interaction. That is an interactive narrative. It's like the narrator in Stanley Parable. This is someone that is directly speaking to you as the character, and is trying to mess with your head as much as possible, and trying to get you to continue through the experiments, and just insults you as you try to disassemble her.
I remember one of these amazingly sort of iconic moments in Portal 2. You go through a bunch of jumps, you're being lifted through the air. It's like, wait, this is his trap. This is the part where he kills you. So you land, and GLaDOS tells you that. Like, this is the part where he kills you. And Wesley's like, this is the part where I kill you. Chapter, whatever it is, this is the part where he kills you. Achievement unlocked. This is the part where he kills you. Like... and you're standing in the middle of all these spikes, but yeah, I did start laughing. Like, okay, I get it. This is the part where he kills me.
That's pretty funny.
The fact that they added the achievement with there was like, it's one of those things you can't. It's hard to experience the second time because you'd have to somehow re-achieve the same achievement. It's kind of like Door 105 and Stanley Parable, but just like all that chapter, whatever. The part where he kills you. This is the part where he kills you. This is the part where I kill you. Achievement.
Yeah. See, what I liked about that is...
And then escaping that just felt so good.
Yeah. Well, what I liked about that is the fact that the achievements, which are something that we come to expect in games, was used as part of the punchline, or part of the tag. That, to me, is really funny. And holy shit, I mean, talk about, like, always talk about Valve and their sense of humor, but Team Fortress 2... is all the different kinds of comedy you could ask for.
When Lore did the video for the Team Fortress 2 video, they didn't have to write any jokes. The jokes wrote themselves. Here's this guy, goes to a new land, ends up buying a bunch of gravel, writes his last will and testament on his own flesh on his back somehow, leaves half his land to both his sons because, you know what, you're a bunch of assholes, so here, you could fight over it. Just the ensuing chaos, the personalities of everybody. They trolled us so damn hard with the Meet the Pyro video. Like, we were talking for years as to what's going to show up in the Meet the Pyro.
Yeah.
And what is it? Oh, he's actually batshit crazy, and he sees the whole world as this beautiful sunshine thing while he's murdering everyone.
Yeah.
We never saw that come.
I wasn't happy with that, by the way.
I don't think they could have made anyone happy, so they just kind of went for the fuck it, jump the shark, jump the flaming shark in the.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I did a Flash cartoon on that. I mean, my take on it was, as much as he's a crazy psycho, he takes his job completely seriously, like the sniper does, and he's just very professional. He says, "Well, when you're not entirely sure, just saturate the entire area at fire, and that will very likely do some good." I mean, that's not. I didn't say that in the cartoon, but I don't know. I was more attracted to the idea of the pyro being really good at his job, or her job, apparently, as everyone else is. But it's fine.
Yeah, it was funny, and I'm also sort of remembering in Portal 1 when GLaDOS tries to make you assume the party submission position. You can actually look at the ground and crouch and get the achievement for, oh, you did it, but nothing actually happens. So you're just going to have to move on now. GLaDOS will say a few more lines, but that'll be about it. There's a door you can take.
So I'm still on Team Fortress 2. Like, you have the way the characters speak to each other. When everyone has a line for when they dominate somebody else. So it's actually now like that there's going to be a joke here, so you seek it out. You try to dominate a scout as a heavy, just to hear what the heavy says to the scout. I mean, you can go online and just listen to all of them, but discovery is always more rewarding in the long run. You can laugh at the fact that the heavy has boxing gloves called the Killing Gloves of Boxing, or KGB. You can laugh at the...
I actually noticed that this acronym.
Yep.
There's a lot of humor in the item descriptions.
Yeah.
For it, and
there's humor in the whole thing. The fact that the sniper has a jar of pee as a legitimate tool he can use in his inventory. I mean, and that's just like the things that are done on purpose, And one of the things I remember cracking up was like I'm running up a staircase. I strafe right. I look out the door, and there's 3 rockets coming towards me, and I get blown up, and I'm like, that was funny. Like, I can't even be mad about that kind of death.
Yeah. And of course, the jar of pee has the tactical thing of, oh, you're on fire. Here, I throw Jarati at you, and I've saved my teammate. But he's like, oh god, I'm burning, Jarati. Now I'm covered in urine.
Yeah. You're welcome.
You're a horrible person.
Wow. Lesser of 2 evils.
Yeah, and item descriptions is actually a fantastic one we never touched on, because that is a great place to put more and more. If you look at the item descriptions for a lot of things in the Dark Souls series, it tends to flesh out the world a bit more and all that. So that's a great place to put humor, which not a lot of people are taking advantage of. Even the dyes in Team Fortress 2 all have really silly names. Some shade of pink. Color number 1586, whatever. A slightly mild brown. I think I actually painted a pirate hat. I had a slight shade of brown.
I think I like that Guild Wars 2 has relegated a lot of the comedy to the Asura.
Oh, yeah.
Because they have such a blatant disregard for safety.
If you do the Thermonova reactor and then you do the extra boss at the end of the Thermonova reactor, it actually says, warning, this area is about to overheat in whatever in this amount of minutes. And you could actually just stand there and wait for the countdown to go down and say, this is your additional warning. Please fill out a survey at the end of this to tell us how we did in our warning procedure. And, just going through the story with Zolja, and she has this massive golem, which basically is the powerhouse. It goes around and punches things. It's you better tell us what we want to know. Don't make any sick Mr. Sparkles on you. Yes, the golem is called Mr. Sparkles. And she says that with a complete straight face. And everyone is actually legitimately scared of Mr. Sparkles. And I can't even say that without laughing.
Yeah. I forgot that his name was that.
Yeah, and when you have to do the golem battles as one of the storyline things, all the golems are named after various jokes. One of the things you face is the OVR 9000.
Oh, okay. And take a second.
It's funny because you don't need to get the joke. It's just a golem called the OVR 9000. Maybe you know about over 9000, maybe you don't, but it's just the OVR 9000.
And if you remember, this was a little bit of a meme, but I think it was the 2000. Goddamn, I'm not gonna get the year right. 2000 something World Cup, and a French soccer player, Zidane, headbutted a guy named Materazzi, an Italian player. And for a while, there was a move in Guild Wars 1 called the Enidaz Headbutt. And the picture was the dude, bald dude, giving a headbutt. I think they either took the move out completely or just renamed it to Headbutt. But while I was there, that was pretty funny. There's also a Rod Quartz Invocation, which is backwards Trogdor.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Isn't Trogdor already backwards or something?
It's complicated.
I think Trogdor... Isn't that just dragon with the D taken off?
No.
Not quite sure. That kind of humor done sparingly is definitely very nice because it's sort of submitted for your approval. You don't have to get it. It's not like the story won't move on if you don't get it. It's just
still a spell you can cast. You can still use it for other reasons.
Yeah, I mean, the Stormtrooper in the new Star Wars movie having JB-007 because that's actually Daniel Craig inside. He happened to wander onto set, so they gave him a part. And you don't need to know that because all the scene depends on is she mind controls this guy. And it's funny knowing that that's Daniel Craig and it's James Bond 007, but you don't need to know that.
Yeah. Crap, man. I didn't even mention, honestly,
let us forego mentioning the Fallout series because if you start mentioning all the pop culture references and humor in there, we're going to be here all night.
Pop culture references, I mean, they're
not always fun.
They're great depending on which one you pick. Because some are more ingrained than others. Over 9000, at least in my generation, we're going to stick to that one. That one's funny. I'll find a way to use that one. But that's the kind of thing that you can use in context. You can actually try to find a way to say over 9000 and have another person be outraged that it's over 9000. And
what? 9,000?
Yeah, and that's where layering comes in. Obviously, one layer is the fact that people know about it as the meme. But if that meme fails, you still have your context layer to still maintain something. So it's jokes can be hidden. They can be dug up. You can discover them. That's what makes Arrested Development an infinitely rewatchable show. You can watch the same episode 3 times and always catch something new that you hadn't picked up before. And it shows that kind of dedication. But the last thing that I remember that I want to bring up that cracks me up is a Magic the Gathering card. You know this one. There's flavor text whenever they have room for it, not all the time. But there's this blue enchantment called Sea's Claim.
Wait, what? Okay, I've got another card when you're done.
Okay, called Sea's Claim, and it's an image of a mountain range that's being flooded by water.
Oh,
and,
this one.
And it says, "Who's the crazy one now?" Quote, Torgal, mountaintop boat maker.
They need to commit to some more jokes in there. I know, like, a couple of sets, it just turned into the whole, hey, these iconic planeswalkers are fighting with each other, so our flavor text is going to reflect that they're fighting with each other. Like, the new Rebound is Jace, the Mind Sculptor, talking to someone else, like, well, it's actually really, really simple, but since you've only recently learned to walk, I'll use small words. Whereas the old one was, nice spell, I'll take it. And then the new Goblin Grenade, I got no clue what the hell the new Goblin Grenade is. The old Goblin Grenade, Goblin Grenade says sacrifice a Goblin to deal 2 damage to any target you want. New flavor text, no freaking clue what it is. I read it several times, still don't remember. Old flavor text, I don't suppose we can teach them to throw the damn things! Because it is, you're sacrificing a Goblin, so, like, it's a grenade. But instead of throwing it, they're being suicide bombers. Like, can't we just teach them to toss them? We'd have more Goblins.
I mean, Magic the Gathering matches can just get funny if you imagine what's happening on the field. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Mist Cloud, or whatever it's called, it's a 0/2 defender which can't take damage. So what happens is, I have my Valiant Knight, and he's going to charge forth. I defend with the Mist Cloud. And he's gotten lost in the mist, and now just feels like a right silly bastard. He's going to be going away now.
All right. Well, I'm ready to wrap up. Obviously, this subject is there's the fact that I said jokes, comedy, and humor, and all 3 of those are kind of different things a little bit. So there's a whole discussion there. But what I want to hear from people in the comments is it's just examples of times or things that made them laugh, whether it was the game that did it for them, the game did it while you were playing, or it was something that you did to the game.
Or, yeah, and, humor can be unintentional. It can be you just tried something that wasn't supposed to work, and, again, in terms of Dark Souls 2, it could be missing that jump, even though by all means you should have, and just breaking down into laughter because, like, it's too late, why am I still doing Okay, that's kind of dark humor. But still.
I assume you wanted to end on that.
Yeah, what can we have good timing with our jokes, we don't have good timing with our endings.
Oh, snap. I respect that. All right.